Hey, it looks like America is going to be voting soon for federal elections and local elections, and expectations for Democrats, you know, not as they started out to be. I mean, the polls are not looking good, basically. Republicans look like have been able to make the case for electing them more than the Democrats have been able to make the case for America to keep them in power. And there's a whole lot of reasons for that. One of the biggest reasons for that is inflation. And why is inflation the biggest liability for Democrats? It's because Democrats have not been able to come up with an explanation and the reason to tell the American people that what is on the line for this election is bigger than inflation. Democrats have just not been able to make the case. They have a winning hand. The problem is they have not been able to use it. I've seen the president make speeches. He has come close to being able to let the American people know that what is at stake during this election is a whole lot bigger than inflation. And that is your democracy, your way of governance, your freedoms, your privacy, your womanhood, your body autonomy. He hasn't been able to look around the world and see where inflation is higher, but also see people saying, yeah, inflation is high in this country, but guess what? We have something bigger than inflation that we are fighting for today, right now. And a practical example of two countries I'll name that the Democrats would have been able to show as an example of why America should take their democracy as the one issue that is the driving force behind their vote instead of inflation. It's because Democrats haven't been able to link the two, blend them, and make the American people understand, oh yeah, wow, our democracy is more important than inflation. Inflation is high right now, but it is the same all over the world. In fact, inflation is high, but it is a whole lot better here in America than it is in other countries. And these two countries I want to cite as a practical example of where the citizens of those countries are ignoring their domestic problems and saying, like in Iran, take Iran for an example. The women in Iran today are in the streets, giving up their freedom, being killed, being beaten up, being groped in the streets, being locked up, being shot at. And with all that, these women in Iran are still in the streets, telling the men that are ruling them that enough is enough. These women don't care how high the inflation rate is in their countries. They are saying our privacy, our womanhood, our body autonomy at this particular moment in time is a whole lot bigger and more important than a 15% inflation rate in our country. Iran. The Democrats have not been able to link these two together and explain it to the American people. Why do you think these women are in the streets in Iran? It is not because of inflation. And that's not to say inflation is not higher in Iran than the United States. You know why they are in the streets? Democrats have not been able to explain, link these two problems together and explain them to the American people. Let the American people know that, yeah, inflation is high here in America, but we have been working on it. We've done this, and this to help bring inflation down and ease the pain. But guess what, America? That is not what is on the line here today. during this election. Democrats have not been able to link these two and explain it to the American people. The second country, which is the biggest explanation that Joe Biden would have been able to come up with to convince the American people that inflation is high in America, but you shouldn't go to vote considering inflation to be your main reason why you are voting this time around, and voting against Democrats because you think they have not been able to fix the problem. First off, Democrats cannot fix this problem until they fix the problems around the world. That's one thing. But that's a sideshow. The main issue here that the president should have targeted is be able to link the war that is going on in Ukraine to what America should be considering as their top issues when they go to the polls this time around, and that is the American democracy. Ukraine is fighting to maintain what they have just tasted, a little bit of freedom, which America right now has in abundance, but they are taking it for granted and don't even list this as one of their main reasons why they are going to vote. Simply because, like I said, they take it for granted. They don't think they will lose it. Even though they have seen what the Republicans try to do to take that right away from America and install a one-man fascist rule in this country. The Ukrainians have tasted a little bit of freedom, and they are saying there is no way they are going to allow a dictator from Russia to come in and take their country, take their way of life and their system of governance that they just started to enjoy, take it away and impose a fascist regime in their own country. The Ukrainians are saying, no way. America, do you think you can go to Ukraine today and tell those people, oh, there should be a bigger problem than the war that you are fighting right now? You are giving your lives for your freedoms and your everything for right now. And that should be the high inflation in your country, which is almost 20%. Why aren't you guys so worried about inflation in Ukraine? America, Mr. President, this is the drumbeat that you should be hammering from now on going to election day. Remind the Americans that they have something they are taking for granted. Remind the Americans not to reward the Republicans for what they try to do or what they plan on doing if you give them the power to govern this country again. Remind them that Republicans can't do anything about inflation. Tell them that there is no way Republicans are going to come into office with their bent mentality on impeachment, investigations, retribution, one-man rule, installing people all over the country to make sure that your vote will never ever count again. If you vote for this person, the Republican Party don't think that's right, they will null your vote. They are installing people right now to do that for you. So focus the American people's own attention on the importance of their freedom, their democracy. More important than inflation. Inflation is big, inflation is high, but that shouldn't be what determines your vote, America. Remind them of the John F. Kennedy speech. Mr. President, that is that moment this American country is in right now. You have not been able to explain and link these two things together. John F. Kennedy, at that moment in time when the country was facing that peril, that disaster, you know what John F. Kennedy said? Yeah, things are really, really tough in America right now. But America, this is not the time to ask what America can do for you. This is the time, the moment that America should say to themselves, ask not what America can do for you, but what you can do for America. We are at that point today, Mr. President. You have to be able to make that case, just like John F. Kennedy did back in the 60s. Mr. President, you haven't been able to make that today. This is the moment that you should grab, go in front of the camera, make a speech, a somber speech. Look at the camera, look at the American people in a very serious and a somber way. Say, America, this country is in peril. The country is asking for your help. Inflation is high. But your democracy should be more important today, in this day and time, than inflation. We Democrats are working to fix this. Here's what we have done. This. What have the Republicans told you they are going to do to fix the inflation? Have they told you anything about how they are going to fix it? Or are you just saying, well, we're going to kick the Democrats out because we think inflation is bigger than autonomy, our body autonomy, our freedom, our privacy, our democracy. So we are going to reward the Republicans for what they did to overthrow our government and what they are planning to do to make sure that there is no democratically elected lead person in this country again, just like in Russia or in China. Mr. President, you have to make the link. You have to be able to make the two and make sure that Americans understand inflation is high, but it is not the most pressing issue today. You have to be able to make that case and convince America to refocus their attention away from inflation, which is the drumbeat of the day. I mean, the news cycles, you turn anywhere, is inflation, is inflation. Somebody's going to a store, oh, I can't buy milk today because it's a few pennies high. Tell that to a Ukrainian woman or a Ukrainian man who is facing destruction over the insistence of Russia that they impose their way of government on this free nation. Tell America, if the Republicans take over, that fight is over. Those Ukrainians are going to be left to their own will, their own power. No help. Republicans are going to close down everything, just like Donald Trump tried to do. Mr. President, you have to be able to make this case to the American people. Convince them that their democracy today is more important than the prevailing inflation rate. You have to be able to do that. If you can't do that, the Democrats are going to lose this election. Mr. President, another thing I have not heard you talk about at all is Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. There are Republicans out there, independents out there, who would gladly give you their vote if you had talked about Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, and the moderate Republicans that are trying to purge their Republican Party that has been taken over by this fascist cult. But you haven't talked about Liz Cheney at all. When you talk to a crowd, ask, is there a Liz Cheney Republicans among you? Is there an independent who support Liz Cheney's stand against out there? Ask the question to the crowd. There will be some people. Liz Cheney won 30% of Republicans in Wyoming. Those are the type of people you are targeting, Mr. President. Those are the type of Republicans that would give you the majority in this election if you make the case and let the American people know what is at stake is more important than an 8.5% inflation, which is lower than any other developed country. And you are working to fix it. You have done so many things to fix it. Link those things. This is what we have done, and it's working. Just this month, we had a 2.6% growth in GDP. Mr. President, this is the moment you talk about Liz Cheney. You tell her, Liz Cheney, me and you have a lot of disagreement because you're a Republican, a true patriotic Republican, I might add. But you know what? You lost in Wyoming. I want you to come and work for the government of America, not for me. Not for me. But somebody like you, your government needs you. Mr. President, just say things like that. Offer that lady something. Tell her. Praise her. Call her a patriot citizen. Her followers will fall in line behind Democrats this time around to kick out these MAGA Republicans. But you haven't done that. Why haven't you done that? Leverage Liz Cheney. She will be happy to hear you talk about her. Adam Kinzinger and other moderate Republicans who are sick and tired of this MAGA Republican taking over their party. But you have not done that. Sometimes you do it in passing, just like doing what. Be passionate, be somber sometimes when you talk about things like this. You haven't done that, Mr. President. Why? Why? Make a speech. Give that JFK speech. That ask not what your country can do for, but what you can do. Tell the American people your country needs you today. Your democracy needs you today. Your way of life is in peril. Your body autonomy, your womanhood is in peril if you don't come out and vote. Inflation is high, but trust me, what these Republicans are planning to do is bigger than that. You see what they did to Pelosi's husband? This is what they will be doing to each and every American who does not agree with them. Is that what you want for America in the future? All because you think maybe Democrats will come in and bring inflation down just magically like that, even though they haven't told you how they're going to do it. They have told you what they're going to do. Social Security, if the Republicans take over, they are going to put Social Security on a five-year pace, after which we have to go back and renegotiate. Social Security, something you have been working for the whole of your life. Republicans are now saying, well, we have to give it 5 years. After every 5 years, we have to renew it. Don't take my word for it. One of their own leader, that senator from Florida, yeah, he is one of their own leaders, not me. So go read it. Right now they will tell you, oh no, we don't support what he says, but yeah, they do. Medicare, are you on Medicare right now? Yeah, that too is going to be 5-year program. They said it clearly, that is going to be a 5-year program. Are you on any governmental assistance right now? 5 years. After every 5 years, the government is going to come in and try to renegotiate and decide whether you should get it and how much you should get. So America, inflation is high, but I want you to know there is something bigger and bigger than inflation, a whole lot bigger. Talk to the women in Iran, whose inflation rate is close to 20%, or Ukraine, who is all the way up to the sky. You tell them I'm afraid, they'll be like, what are you talking about? Who are you? No, we don't think inflation is a problem here. We don't care about it. We don't care about it. There are more pressing issues than going to the grocery store and somebody telling me, yeah, your milk is a few pennies higher. Don't get me wrong, for the average poor guy, that's a whole lot. But you know what? If the Republicans take over, inflation will be going up to 20% because of what they are planning to do. Shutting down the government, not funding government programs, not cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare. They have all that on the line. America, when was the last time a Republican came into office and left office with the economy in the right place? When was the last time did that happen? It has always been when the Republican mess it up, the Democrats come in and clean it up. But you see, sometimes we do have this very short memory, and we do have this mentality of instant gratification. If you are not doing it quick enough, we are going to get rid of you. Even if you're on the path to doing it right, we're still going to get rid of you and bring somebody in there to either mess it up, or maybe, maybe fix it. And the Republicans will all know there is no maybes on it. They can talk, but they can't walk. That's the problem with Republicans. They can talk, they are able to convince you of hard talk, but they can't walk the walk. This is what Democrats have been able to prove time and time and time again. And here we go again, another election is coming. They have latched onto inflation and told you, yeah, your democracies, yeah, we're going to rip it up and throw it away. But don't worry about that side. Don't worry about that right now. That's not going to have any effect on you. As long as you don't mess with the government, it shouldn't have any problem. You shouldn't have any problems. Yeah, abortion or contraception or going across state lines to go have an abortion. Yeah, we're going to ban all of that. We're going to tell you there will be no abortion in this country as long as we're in power. Contraception, no, we don't want you to have sex here. So we're going to ban contraception. Okay? And talk about, say you get pregnant in a blue state. Now you want to go into a red state to go have an abortion. We're watching you. We're watching you. We know all your history. You leave Texas as a pregnant woman, go into Chicago, go there for a week or two, and then you come back. Yeah, we're going to want to know why you went to Chicago. Mr. President, say it and stick to it. Have your administration, people, your spokespeople in the administration, talk about it and stick to it. Have Democrats who are on the campaign trail say it and stick to it. This is what Republicans have been able to do. They pick up a little issue, and they blow it up, and they make an issue about it. Take woke, one word. They interpret what woke is, and they use it against Democrats. Think about parental rights. Who is against parental rights? That guy in Virginia that ran that election, they asked him if parents have any say in this type of parent-teacher meetings. He said no. What a stupid answer. Of course they do. Why do they call them parent-teachers meeting? PTAs. So stupid things like the Democrats do is what really wins Democrats sometimes. So, I mean, Mr. President, patriotism, freedom, privacy, Social Security and Medicare, link what is happening in Ukraine to what would happen here. We take what we have here for granted. They are fighting for what we have here. We're taking it for granted. They are fighting to have it. You are saying, well, maybe we'll give up our freedoms. We'll give up our rights. Just so that maybe Republicans can be able to, fix the inflation thing a little bit. Maybe, Mr. President, make that case. Make that case. They can't. They're not going to be able to fix it. No way. But if you don't make the case, it'll be too late. This country is at breaking point, and it is asking the American people for help. And the people that are supposed to speak for this country are not saying anything. If they try to say something, it's just in passing. Oh, our democracy is what we are fighting for, and that's it. They move on. Break into it. Explain it. Bring examples of what it will look like if it happens, like Ukraine, like Iran, like China. Bring it up. Make the comparisons. Bring Iranian women. Link them to American women. Tell them they are fighting for the same thing. If those Iranian women can ignore 20% inflation, America, you can ignore 8.6% inflation and say your body autonomy is more important than that for this election cycle. Because what's on the way is the complete dissolution of all democratic institutions. And that also is on tape from Steve Bannon. Cite it, say it. Let the American people know that inflation is high in this country, but there is something more important than inflation. They should be voting for this election cycle. Because if your democracy is taken down, is broken down, your womanhood is taken away from you, your rights are taken away from you, you are never going to be able to complain about inflation anymore. No, they will silence you. You see what happened to Nancy Pelosi's husband? Somebody went in there, tied him up and beat him up. This is what a fascist regime look like. Is that what you want, America? All because of 8% inflation? America, what you are going to vote for this year is more than inflation. It's more than 8%. Let's say inflation was 15% here in America. It will still be more important than that 15% inflation. Today we have 8.5% inflation. Yesterday we just got a report that says GDP growth was 2.6%. Very good news. We are trending in the right direction. Just give us a few more years. 2 more years, America, to fix this problem. We Democrats will fix it. But I'm not seeing anybody making the case, Mr. President. I don't even know this speech I'm making here will reach anybody who would consider it a good speech. So, but I hope it does, and you guys can have some speech writer listen to what I've just said, pick the good parts of it, draw it up in a very good speech, and hand it over to these Democrats that are campaigning out there, so they can be able to synchronize their message and talk to the American people the way they're supposed to be talked to. Because inflation should not be the most important thing Americans should go into that polling vote to vote for. Inflation is not it. It's not it. It should have been the last thing Americans think about when they go to vote. I hope you're able to make the case. Okay? Good luck. God bless. Boom.